I say a lot that astrology can either be the chains that bind us to these binary boxes and these identities, or it can be a tool for liberation. And the difference is very much based in the intention and how you use it. It's not about being an Aquarius. It's not about being a Gemini. We are all so much more than that. We exist within the middle. So we know, and actually science now knows, that each planet vibrates at a specific frequency. So let's say you have Jupiter vibrating at a frequency in one part of the sky, and it's passing through the part of the sky known as Sagittarius. Sagittarius also has a frequency. So the energy of Jupiter is being expressed through the energy of Sagittarius, which is nice because it is its home planet. And then opposite, you have, let's say, the moon, and the moon is in Gemini. So now the moon in Gemini and Jupiter and Sagittarius are both vibrating at their specific frequencies, and they're hitting each other exactly opposite. And then that hitting, that axis that makes between the chart, is like a channel. It's a musical channel. And then now these notes are merging.
This is the Bliss Realm podcast, where every moment is honored as sacred. I'm your host, Skylar Temple Singer, and I'm having conversations with leaders, healers, the mystics, and so many more as we get curious about how to live a bliss-filled life simply through the everyday without bypassing our sadness or other feelings. We're diving deep into the great esoteric cosmos and even deeper into the flesh and feelings of what it truly means to be human so that we can live more harmoniously on this planet and within ourselves. So let's step into this portal together and explore the Bliss Realm. Oh my goddess, I'm so excited for you all to hear this episode of the Bliss Realm today. My guest is Sami Adler. She is an astrologer. Today we're talking about the new moon in Scorpio. We are diving deep into the qualities of Aquarius. We're talking about how to live magnetically from your center, how to embody all the parts of your chart of your astrology, but to use your chart as a spaceship for your evolution, and to know that it's this thing that's here for you that you could learn about and you could tap into, but you also really don't have to, because the truth is that the planets are moving around us all the time. We're always going to be influenced and evolve with them. So whether or not you know about astrology really doesn't matter. It's okay. And we are going to talk about that in this episode, around some of the hesitation that people have around astrology. So if you are one of those people, you're like, I don't know anything about astrology, or I don't like astrology, this episode is for you. Sami has an amazing way of explaining how astrology is just here for you to understand yourself better, how to bring it back into the earth, into the self. And yeah, she has this way of really beautifully nurturing and speaking on all of these qualities that are coming from you, from the true being who you are, not to be dictated by what your chart says, but rather just to know that it is this tool for your acceleration. And I am really deeply inspired by our conversation today. I also created some really deep downloads with her around the frequency of sound being a tool for time travel, for you to travel back to the moment of all of the frequencies that existed in the universe at the moment that you were born. Like, there is a frequency there that you can access by making sound. And that is what I do as a sound healer. So that is very exciting for me. I'm very excited for you guys to listen to this conversation. We're also going into the qualities of Gen Z and what those are like in comparison to millennials. So you may get a deeper understanding of yourself as a Gen Z, as a millennial, as someone from another generation looking to have a little bit of a lens within. All of it and more, I am so excited to share with you today on this episode of the Bliss Realm. Enjoy, my loves. Hello, my friends. Welcome to this episode of the Bliss Realm podcast. Today, I have a very special guest named Sami Adler. I first met Sami a year ago at the Mystical Yoga Farm in Guatemala at Lake Atitlan, which is actually where I am recording from right now. But I am across the lake on another part of the lake where I'm currently living, with a beautiful view of the water up in the forest. And yeah, when I first released this podcast, Sami reached out to me and she reminded me that I actually was telling her about my dreams for this show a year ago when we met. She was a karma yogi working at the Mystical Yoga Farm. She gave me an astrology reading there. And I just remember being really amazed with her skill and her knowledge, but more than that, her bursting love for what I can describe as a really integrated way of what she's doing, which is bringing astrology into the world in a really unique way. And we've only actually chatted a few times in this life, but every time that we connect, I feel so excited and inspired and just really resonant with this being. So I'm super excited for Sami to come on today to talk with us about the new moon in Scorpio, which is today, to talk about soul collaging and how our planets that we're born with have a unique frequency, and that is like music that we're born with. She's going to go a little bit into my own chart, and a lot of other magic is going to unfold. So with that, I will leave it to Sami.
Hi, Skylar. Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. And yeah, I just can't wait to get into some juicy astrology and talk about the Scorpio new moon a little bit. But to start, I'd love to kind of just share a prayer with all of you. So yeah, I'll start by taking a deep breath here and may all may all beings reclaim their wholeness. May we all learn to communicate with our environments again and ask the big questions of who am I to our soul instead of just trying to squeeze into other people's interpretations of who they are. May all beings learn to speak the language of the universe once more. May we walk beside and learn from the plants and animals that surround us, to see their answers reflected in the exhibits at art museums and conversations with strangers. May we learn to listen to the universe and notice all parts of ourselves, the light, the dark, the hidden, and the loud. May we return to wholeness.
Wow. So I received so much power and uniqueness and like opening of the Akashic records in a way. Just like my visual field can just feel so much present in the universe as you speak. I can feel how connected you are to the stars, but also down to the deepest, tiniest atom within the earth and within yourself. And that genuine way of, the truth of behind your prayer of may we all really be ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you for that reflection. I love that.
I'm so excited for you to be here today, sister.
Me too.
Yeah. So you're in Boulder right now, right?
Yes. Sunny Boulder, Colorado.
I would love for you to tell us a little bit about just who Sami is and how you got into astrology.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question, who are you, is clearly a bit of a loaded one for me with my astrology background. So maybe I'll kind of just go into my story for the past couple years and kind of share how astrology has really shaped that story. So yeah, I graduated from college in 2020, and like many other 2020 graduates, I moved back home and did my job from DC remotely. And about 7 months in, I was, completely stripped away from what I used to identify myself from, my friend group, my peers. And around the Gemini and Sagittarius eclipse, which I was not aware of at the time, but around this time, I really kind of went into, what some might call a minor mental breakdown, others might call a dark night of the soul. But what I would really call is my soul remembering something. and trying to get to the deeper root of who I am when I'm not just comparing myself to my friend group or who I'm with and everything else. In this time of isolation, I was really kind of stripped down to my essence. And I turned to astrology, and I actually remember the exact moment when I was laid in bed and I just had a whole day of Zoom meetings where I just felt like I was listening to myself talk, and I wasn't, it almost was like this weird out of body experience where I was just like, who am I, like what is going on? It was almost like a breakdown of the personality. And I remember going to my table and drawing a circle. And it was the first of so many circles that I have drawn and explored my own chart and then other people's charts. And I charted the planets and the signs. And I just started to kind of look at the patterns that were coming up. And then I just sort of sat back and noticed for the next 4 months. And I noticed how these patterns and these things were showing up in some of my behaviors and my reactions and just kind of my stories that I tell about myself. And, being home is kind of the perfect place to do that. Just confronted with all of the things and all of the stories that come up and all of the triggers. And it just, astrology gave me this language and this framework to kind of let my armor down and let the defenses come down and really notice and really see myself from this higher and more encompassing perspective. And then from there, I started a new moon collage project. So every new moon, I would look at where the moon was falling in my chart. What are the themes of the houses and what are the themes of the sign and what do those mean for me? And I wasn't really doing this intellectually. I was just going through magazines and found objects and putting them in my notebook. And then I would, by this time I was living in DC, and I would go out into the world. I would go to art museums. I would go on walks. I would have conversations with strangers. And it was like the symbols and the archetypes and the images that I put on the collage would come to life in the most amazing, magical ways. And it was like everything became a reflection of my internal journey and helped me understand this different piece of my psyche, and also what do I find beauty in, what do I find value in, what do I need in this area of life. It was like this detective map, and I was just like this playful child running around DC, like putting all these pieces together in my mind and then going home and journaling and having all these realizations. And it really just opened me up to the world of spirituality. It really brought me back home to myself, and has just been this journey that's continued to go. And it kind of is what brought me to leave my job and explore what path is most authentically aligned for me, which is what brought me to work at a summer camp as a naturalist. And then it brought me to where I met Skylar in Guatemala at a retreat center and permaculture farm, essentially. And then I worked at more farms, and now I'm in Boulder and I'm working as a writer and building up this astrology offering that is essentially my way of trying to share what worked so well for me, which is essentially using astrology as a language and tool for the soul's different parts to express itself so that we can return home to wholeness. And that's what it's been for me. And that's kind of what I'm now hoping to share with others. And then in that, continue to learn more about this amazing system and technology of astrology that just is infinite in the way that it keeps unfolding.
Oh, wow. I love what you share so much.
Thank you.
Astrology as the language for the soul. Really, yeah, I've
Mm-hmm.
been really tuned into that lately of just the languages that
Yeah.
everything is communicating, and everything that you see is a language in some kind of way. And we're
Yep.
basically just learning how to translate one way or another. And that one thing that I really love about talking with you is that you're a Gen Z. Um, so I'm the first year
Me
because
too.
I graduated school in 2019, and there is this slight difference, and also because like I'm the baby
Mm.
of my family, so that means all my siblings are millennials, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of cusp, I'm millennial, and
Mm-hmm.
I spend a lot of my time around millennials, and there's this different energy when I get around Gen Zs that I sometimes forget, and until I recognize, I'm like, oh, this is, yeah, like this is Gen Z energy. And what I really feel is like, it is this like excited, creative, really cosmically connected, and um, hmm, it feels super pure hearted, and it's not just an
Mm.
age thing. It's really like, you probably know, like it has something to do with where our planet is for what like
Yeah.
this generation is. And
Yeah.
yeah, I see that coming through you in this new moon collage of like taking that divine play and pure creator space from the inner child to just create what you want to create, and then
Yeah.
seeing the reality of like, oh my god, when I make something like a collage, it actually comes to life in my
Yes.
life. I'm really doing this.
Yes.
It's seeing, it's as simple as like, whipping something together on the computer and printing it out. It's like you're hitting order to the universe, and the universe is
Yes.
like, yep, I got it.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think what you touched on with the co-creatorship is a really important part of this. And I go back and forth between this idea: is it that I am creating these things and then they come into the universe, or is it that I am aligning with the energy that is already existing when I am in this creative flow and in this creative process? And then that
Mm,
allows me to kind of walk hand in hand with the energies of the universe and the energies of the planet and kind of express through them. So, for example, I almost feel like this inner child within me is the Pisces placement in the fifth house. So,
mm,
Pisces is going to feel different for every single person depending on how and where you have Pisces in your chart. What planets are in near? What house is it in? And for me, it really is this kind of eternal child energy. So how is it that I tap into that? How does that feel in my body? And then once I'm into that feeling in my body, then the co-creatorship really comes alive. And then it's like I am walking hand in hand with the way that that energy wants to express through me. So yeah. Space from the reality that we've all kind of known and grown up with and what could possibly come in the future. And yeah, so I haven't dived too much into the actual generational planets of Gen Z versus millennial. That's definitely an interesting thing for me to go down. Um, I focus typically more on the individual side of things, but it is an interesting thing to think about. And I think Skylar, you also have your Jupiter in Aquarius as a 97. But yeah, I know Jupiter is just 1 year, so that's mini. It would be more Pluto, which is Sagittarius. I'm just doing this as I'm thinking. So Sagittarius is also the explorer. Before, millennials had their Pluto in the sign of Scorpio. So I feel like there's kind of like this intensity that can come with millennials.
mm,
And then with Sagittarius, it's kind of like coming up from this period of darkness, which also millennials did grow up in a very kind of difficult time. Their coming of age was during the 2007 financial crisis. Things felt very intense. It almost felt like maybe their coming of age was a tower moment, was this Scorpio like
mm,
transformation. And now they're just kind of like sitting within it. But Gen Z is really coming to age in this more Sagittarius era with this more like Sagittarian essence of coming up from the darkness and then just trying to expand and explore into the world, which can also be why with Gen Z there's such a emphasis on technology and connecting with people all around the world. And you really see this with like TikTok in the pandemic. So many Gen Zs were on the internet and connecting with people from all around the world, hearing all kinds of different perspectives and seeing all the different ways there are to live your life. And I feel like that just opened up so many doors. And now you just see so many Gen Z people just kind of tapping those doors and being like, what else is there to this life? Which is a very Sagittarius thing to do. And that's a very Sagittarius
mm,
way to think about transformation of building new systems, is just by expansiveness and by optimism and by just saying what else is out there, almost from this place of curiosity and just thirst for life. I feel like is what's fueling it. So yeah, almost like this Aquarius energy for some, I'd say more related to the 97ers, and then mixed with the
mm.
Sagittarius of the larger generation.
Mm,
So yeah, that was
I
a roundabout way of answering it, but that is my answer.
that's a great way to answer it. And I think it's important to talk about because
Yeah,
um hmm, I will we'll get into this maybe a little bit later, but I have a lot of Aquarius in my own chart. And so
you
these
do.
qualities that you're speaking about are things that I notice people notice within me.
Yep.
But it's also, yeah, that larger quality of knowing that it's kind of more coming from the age that I'm coming from. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that some of the older generations, I feel this is natural. Like it's always when
Yeah.
there's new generations coming in, it's kind of harder to understand them. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there's this like wonder and amazement of like, how are they doing that?
Mm-hmm.
And when you tap into the language of astrology and recognize that we're all just understanding each other in this way, and that, yeah, we're literally coming from a different place in space and time.
Yes. We're working with different energetic frequencies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're all valid and they're all part of this bigger story. You know, like there's energies and essences that millennials, Gen X, and boomers are working with that are also so necessary to this larger picture. And the beauty of astrology is that we can understand these generational things and then we can also narrow it down so much to the individual and say, okay, let's just use your Aquarius moon, for example. I would look at that and I would say, okay, how is the rebel alive in Skylar? Is it
Hmm.
boisterous and loud and tearing down systems? Or is the rebel soft? Is it encouraging people to rest? Is it encouraging people to work with spiritual energy in a way that they've never done before? And, you know, I could look at your 12th house where this moon is located with all those other planets and say, probably more along the lines of the second option. But that still doesn't really tell me who is Skylar and what did Skylar come here to do and what is that Aquarius moon trying to work through you? How is it trying to work through you? And then from there, we might ask even deeper questions of looking at Aquarius from an even deeper level of the water bear. So you look at Aquarius, the icon, and it's a water bear holding cosmic ideas from another reality. Maybe it's from another universe, another realm, the future, or even the past, the way that the ancestors have lived. What's in this water is based off of the individual, the cosmic knowledge that they came to this earth to share and to translate. Because that's what Aquarius is as an air sign. It's here to translate cosmic knowledge that is available in the collective unconscious. So it's available in
Mm.
all of our minds, but we haven't quite tethered it down to this reality. And the role of Aquarius is to come with this knowledge and find the proper ways to communicate and then build the technologies to make it into a reality in this space time continuum. And we are all the water bearers. We are all the cosmic
Hmm.
translators because we all have Aquarius somewhere in our chart. Even if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't have any planets in Aquarius, so I guess I don't have any cosmic knowledge. No, no, no. Aquarius, the
Hmm.
constellation, did not leave the sky the moment that you were born. It did not abandon you. Aquarius exists in your chart. It rules one of the 12 houses, one of the 12 areas of life in your chart. And that is kind of the key to understanding what is the information that I came here to translate and what technologies and systems do I use. But in order to know what that looks like for the individual, you have to ask deeper questions and then you have to fall into the embodiment of it. So you have to say, what are the sources of my cosmic knowledge? How do I connect with that knowledge? How do I connect with that information? What are the activities, the hobbies, the art, the music? What are the things that I do that help me connect to that energy? And then once I do connect to that energy, what does it feel like for me? Like, what do I feel like, empowered by it? Do I feel playful with it? Do I feel serious with it? What does it actually feel like for me to express and live from that energy? And then how do I share that? How do I bring that? Because that's kind of what Aquarius is about. That's what they're all about. The signs are here to express their essences through each and every one of us in an individual way. Because if you think about creation wants to experience itself. So it's going to try to find a million different possibilities and ways to experience itself. And that's what the birth chart can help us understand. But me as an astrologer looking at your chart, I can say, okay, I can have some idea of like how you might rebel, how you might create a little bit of space between where we have been as a society and where we're going. But I can't answer these deep questions of how does Skylar embody this and what does this embodiment look like. That is your own exploration. So how I want to work with people and how I see my role as astrologer is really just helping you notice those things and helping you find and explore the practices and the experiences and the conversations to help pull those noticings out. And then it turns into a remembrance. And then once we remember what it feels like, we work toward embodiment. And that is a practice. And that is a constant practice of returning home to what does this mean and look like for me.
Woo!
That was a lot of words.
Drop, girl. Like I have all these tingles in the back of my head right now. It feels really nice. And well, what I really, really love what you're tapping into, thank you for all of this incredible knowledge. First of all, there's so many deep gifts that you're giving here, so much knowledge about Aquarius and all of it. And what really what I really love about this is, there's the conversation that that I'm sure you've heard plenty of, like plenty of the people who are I don't know, fed up with astrology. They're like, I don't want to be assigned to this type of thing, and like it puts me in a box when like especially kind of in spiritual community when you meet someone and it's like, what's your sign? And of course it's a great way to get to know people, but yeah, it's like, I'm not just this sign. And so what I love that you're saying is like, yeah, even if like for example, like I have a lot of fire and air in my chart, but that doesn't mean that like that earth and water don't also exist within that. And it's, yeah, for you to bring that into, okay, like I can read into your chart, but I'm just here to help you remember. And then how you want to embody that is up to you. I feel that's really important for people to know about astrology. When I first started getting into it, and it's like a tool to learn more about yourself. There were times when I would kind of step away from it because I'd be like, well, I don't want it to tell me who I am, which is, that's very Aquarian of me. I don't want anybody to tell me who I am. And because we all deserve to know that for ourselves. And you're right. I do lean towards that second option in Aquarius. I have the sacred rebel within me. And of course, like, sure, that's come out in some of its like more rebellious phases, maybe when I was in my teens and like in college and stuff. But it really is that like quiet revolution in a way of just like, I'm just here being myself, letting you know that you get to be yourself too. And yeah, so for me, that is a really deep medicine, is letting everyone know that, or not even, I'm not even here to tell anybody is the thing. Like you can't tell anybody what they're here to remember. I just am here to embody and be a safe space and not tell you to be anybody else. So yeah, I really see astrology as, when you look at the circle, when you look at the chart, I see it like a kind of like like this Mayan maze that I had this journey one time where it was a medicine journey. I went all the way back to the beginning of creation, and everything dissolved around me. All the dimensions left. Like it was one of the few times where I left the room, in that journey, and everything was black. And then I just saw this giant Fibonacci shell that was spiraling out, and then reaching out of the shell was this kind of silhouette of a woman reaching out, and it was me. And I was just like, oh my God, like I made it. And from that moment, I actually got bored and I decided to recreate all of my reality from there. And that was a really pivotal moment for me. But why I choose to share that right now is that when I was still integrating that journey, there was a part of me that felt like I was meant to escape what was given to me, that I was meant
Mhm.
to escape like my DNA and like and my astrology in a way. It's like I'm not supposed to just, go in stay in the lines of what's been created for me. And what I now see it as is that I'm not reaching out of the end of it, is that I'm actually like anchored in the center. And it's like I
Yes.
made it to the center of the maze. And
Yes.
now I've reconnected to the control center.
Yes.
And I can see all those different places of how I can maneuver around the cosmos of my own being
Mm.
to be who I want to be. And it's a spaceship. I can navigate that spaceship anywhere I want to go. And I see
Yes,
you
you
in that too.
can. Yes. I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I think what you touch on with the center is really important because that is what this approach to astrology is. It's not about being an Aquarius, it's not about being a Gemini. We are all so much more than that. We exist within the middle. If the birth chart, you could look at it in so many ways, the shell, the maze. Lately, I've been looking at it like the spider web or even the
Mm.
womb. But I'll
Mm-hmm.
go with the spider web first. It's like the spider travels to all the houses and all of the signs and it picks up a little bit of information and then it creates this beautiful web. But then eventually it goes back to the center and it just hangs out. It just exists. It's done all the work. It's explored all of the different parts of the psyche. It knows what it wants in each area of life. And now it just becomes this magnet for the things to fall into its web, for things to fall into place. This is how we manifest. And this is also how we return to wholeness by knowing that we can explore these archetypes and we can explore these energies within us without needing to become them fully and individually because we are so much more than that. And that's why my prayer in the beginning was returning to wholeness. And I feel like that gets thrown around so much, returning to wholeness. Like, what does that even mean? It means sitting within all of the different parts of us and then just being. And I feel like you really touched on that. And I've definitely had those experiences with astrology too, where I've had to take a step back from it and say, I feel like this is influencing how I'm seeing myself too much. And it can, I say a lot that astrology can either be the chains that bind us to these binary boxes and these identities, or it can be a tool for liberation. And the difference is very much based in the intention and how you use it. Like anything, it's a tool and it can be harmful in my opinion if it's not used um if it's used in a way to box ourselves in and create stagnant evolutions of ourselves, because the idea is that even though you might have a placement in a specific area in your chart, that planet keeps on moving. It keeps on going in the sky, and that essence within you that might be Aquarius moon is going to continually be touched on by the ever-changing cycle of the moon as well as all of the other planets, which means that that initial moon, that initial essence that you have that's ingrained in your DNA and your cells is also always changing and evolving with the rest of the cosmos. It's not stagnant, it's not stationary, and a it's not fatalistic in my opinion. And I know that saying that is really kind of going away from a lot of more traditional astrology and specifically Vedic astrology. But we all kind of have our own truths within astrology, and what might be a system and a tool for others that is a more fatalistic approach that can maybe work for a lot of people. For me and my approach to astrology, it's not that. That's just been my experience.
Wow. Yeah. To release the fatalism of
Yeah.
astrology, like, yeah,
Yeah.
it can be treated as this huge, serious thing of this is, the story of the universe that's going to occur. And, like, it almost feels like cataclysmic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that you speak that. And it brings me back to something you shared earlier about when you started creating your new moon collages. And it kind of brought up the question for you of like, oh, is what I'm creating coming into form, or am I just creating
Yeah.
based off of what I'm naturally arriving into? I
Yeah.
feel that it's both. And
Yeah.
I can see that with what you just shared because of, yeah, of that essence within your DNA. This is really present for me right now, and everything is like, yeah. When I look at a tree, the tree is going to grow and become a tree if it has everything that it needs, which it already does, just in its natural
Mm-hmm.
essence. If you leave it, nature will take care of it. It's going to grow. More branches are going to seed out. Then we'll have leaves and we'll have fruit, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that is happening. And it's the same thing. It's like all of this, you don't have to do anything to be yourself. So
Yeah.
it's like this tool, astrology, to know yourself better. It's not giving you anything that doesn't already exist within you. So when you're
Yeah.
born, you already have like this chart. It already exists within your being. It's already
Yeah.
living, which is why when I hear you say that you're in your kind of childlike exploration with it, I think that's amazing and super healthy, because you're kind of already aware that it doesn't have the power over you. It's you
Right.
get to be you, and that's why you are not going deep into Taurus, deep into Virgo and saying this is who I am. The 10th house is who I am. All this stuff. It's just like an adventure everywhere
It's
that
an
you go.
adventure. It's a remembrance. Because what can happen, and what I've found with myself, is that even though we have these essences within ourselves and these archetypes within ourselves, we put on these masks and we put on these ways of coping with life, and that don't belong to us. We put on defensiveness, we put on armor, we put on all of these different things to make it okay to walk through a life that is not built to contain the wholeness of who we are. Because that's a reality for most of us. We were not brought up in systems that can contain the wholeness of who we are. And then we have to cope with that. And we put weight upon our essences. And that blocks us from accessing the true gifts of our planetary placements. So I can would it be helpful to give an example of this for myself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the one that's coming to mind is it was during Virgo season, and it was on the Pisces full moon. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take off a half day for work, and I'm going to get on that metro, and I'm going to go to an art museum. And I got to the art museum, and I was looking at this painting, and I did what I always do at this time in my life, which was I politicized the art. I was analyzing where it came from, like blah, blah, blah. I don't know exactly what I was doing to politicize it, but I was politicizing it. And then I had this moment where I noticed that I was doing that. And then I was like, okay, it's the Pisces full moon. Like this is not the time to be analyzing and discerning. This is Virgo energy. Can we step into Pisces energy really fast? And then I was like, let's play a game with myself. Let's imagine that I am a child and I just walked into this museum and I have no context of this world or what's going on out there. And I just arrive at this painting. What do I see? And when I did that, when I gave myself that permission, what came from that part of me was magic. And it was so much fun. And not only was it so much fun, but it actually completely changed my experience at the rest of the museum. I was bopping around to my music. I went in like stiff and kind of, like heady, and I left light and airy, and my imagination was firing. And I really feel like that, just giving myself that permission after I noticed, changed something cellularly in me. And I really believe that, because the next 2 weeks during that cycle, I just had realization after realization of, oh my goodness, I am politicizing everything in my reality. And I was working for a political nonprofit at the time, not political, but dealing with the world's problems essentially, and I was writing and researching about them. And I was just so in the mental, I was so in the analytical, discerning part of my brain, that it was blocking me from experiencing just life unfolding around me. And I had this moment where I was sitting at a park and I was reading this book, and it was about this man who was looking out at a landscape, and he was talking about this feeling of longing to be part of the landscape, even though he was there. And I looked up from the park and I realized that this is what I was doing to myself. I was blocking my ability to just be present in the spaces that I was in DC and anywhere, because I was constantly analyzing myself and everything around me. And that was blocking me from this like unity consciousness that is Pisces. And so essentially the shadow of Virgo was blocking me from the gifts of Pisces. And I love Virgo. I love discernment. I know I love analysis. It's a huge part of me. But I need to give that Pisces side of me space too to come alive, because that is another part of life. And actually when I do that, when I step into that presence, when I step into that unity consciousness and that imagination, then my more like analytical side becomes powered from that. It becomes influenced by that. It becomes better. It becomes deeper. It's not just from a place of judgment, it's from a place of knowing. So it strengthens my Virgo skills as well. So I just say that to say that that astrology provides the tools for remembrance. When I was at that museum, I was able to notice shadow Virgo in my behavior because it was the Pisces full moon and I was intentionally in that space because of that. And then it gave me the space to create an exercise for myself in the moment to bring myself into a different energetic being. And then in doing that, it created all of these little revelations for the next 2 weeks that forever changed. I no longer politicize everything. I really don't. I went from living a life completely of the head to living a life that is much more balanced. And I attribute a big part of that to that day, that moment.
Wow. What a beautiful day that you
Yeah,
experienced.
it
And
was.
yeah, just to take yourself on an artist date really is so beautiful. And that is what I hear in that experience is that that beauty, and it's like it's the magic that comes from um the literal alchemy. It's kind of like magic
Yeah.
explained, you know, and it's like it
Yeah.
seems like this crazy thing where like, wow, I'm experiencing, like you have all these
Mhm.
experiences and then you suddenly realize that it's completely aligned with, you know, with that full moon, with whatever that shadow
Mhm.
aspect is of you that you're experiencing. And yeah, that is why astrology can be really amazing, is that it's like it's the same iteration of what we just spoke on, is the DNA is going to continue to spiral out anyway. So it's like
Mhm.
you really are always we're always feeling the influence of the planets and the transits and what's happening, whether or not you know
Yes.
what is going on is hearsay. You don't have
Yeah.
to. But yeah, and when you can then reflect on that and it helps you to see, wow, I am blocking myself from this, from being fully present with the wholeness of my being, from being fully present with all of reality because of this other aspect of myself. That is where these tools are really helpful.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very well put.
And I would love, as you're saying that, it's making me feel into the Scorpio new moon that we have today,
Yeah.
because I have noticed so much healing within my Scorpio, and
Mhm.
um, really just feeling a lot of gratitude for the new moon today and for this Scorpio season. So I would love to hear what your kind of download is on the new moon right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels very, I think Scorpio energy always feels like either a tower moment or a phoenix rising from the ashes moment. This one definitely feels more of the phoenix. And I feel like so often with Scorpio energy, people emphasize the going into the darkness and going into the shadows. But I feel like sometimes when they talk about the shadows, they talk about it as equivalent to being bad, to being the things in ourselves that we are maybe less fond of, or the things within society that we're less fond of. But this Scorpio new moon actually feels like shedding a light on the parts of us that are in the dark because we put them there because we thought they needed to be there because of society or our own expectations or whatever it is. We've put some of our gifts into the darkness and they haven't been nurtured and they haven't been nourished, so they're just laying blatant. And how many people out there have these incredible talents that maybe aren't as loud, maybe it's not, I feel like so often we just get recognized for the things that are more external, the big creations, the musical abilities, the athleticism, the things that are very obvious. But what about all the quiet, more internal gifts that exist that are not being recognized, that are not being nurtured, that are not being seen? That's Scorpio territory too. And I really feel like this Scorpio new moon, it feels very gentle. It feels very like, let's take what has been in these ashes that has kind of been burned down for whatever reason, and like, let's use that as fuel to rise up and to integrate that into wholeness, to take that part of us that is a gift, that is like so core who we are, and say, put it under our wing and say, let's go, like, let's fly with this, let's bring this into being, and nurture it. And that's how we do that, is we nurture it, we notice it, we recognize it, we see the value in it. So that's what's been coming up for me, and I feel like in the conversations that I've been having and just kind of what's been alive for me. And then also being seen. I don't know if that feels like a theme for you as well, but almost like allowing yourself to be seen in spaces even if you don't feel 100% your best. Going and doing the thing in your community, or going and doing whatever it is, and just kind of like the permission that we give ourselves to just show up and to be seen in our vulnerability and who we are and exactly where we are in our journey in that. And then another one, okay, now I'm just kind of going with them, but they're just coming up,
Yeah.
is the magnetism aspect
Yes.
of that spider. I'm looking at the spider imagery that I've created for my new moon collage, which I actually did on my wall this month, which has been really fun too. It's like my journey in my collage practice has been really evolving since moving to Boulder, and now it's becoming altars around my room. So above my desk, I have the altar that I created for the Libra new moon. And I was going to take it down, but then I was like, well, wait a second. I'm a Libra moon. This is like the essence of my entire moon. I can't take this down just because it's not
Yeah.
Libra season anymore. This is huge. So now it's like, okay, I have my Libra altar over here. I have my Scorpio altar over here. I've got the ancestors with Aquarius over here. And I'm looking at my Scorpio one right now with the spider web, and it's this magnetism of, once we are in the center of our wholeness, once we've integrated our light and our dark, then we do just become this magnet of co-creation and manifestation possibility, and things do kind of just come. And that is a big benefit of Scorpio. It's a skill of Scorpio, is this ability to magnetize things because you've done the deep work. And going into the cave, into the womb, into whatever you want to call it, you become magnetic.
Wow. Yes, that feels so good and super resonant to my being. Yeah, it does feel magnetic and soft and like um kind of like touching a TV screen that's staticky, but it's not shocking you. You're just kind of like
Yeah.
playing with it.
Yeah.
Uh and I really actually, I've really been observing the spiders lately and observing that exact quality of magnetism that you
Cool.
speak about, because I mean, obviously they're kind of all over here in Guatemala, and like my bathroom is outdoors with this epic view of the water, but as the spider who I'm like, we know each other now because
You
this,
become friends.
yeah, because the spider lives there. So the spider
Yeah.
like lives underneath the shower filter during the day, and then at nighttime it comes out.
Hmm.
And I just noticed that I'm like, wow, like there's nothing that this spider needs to do. Everything just comes to it.
Yep.
And yeah, that really does feel true to its being and to our being. I mean, also like its
Yeah.
body is in the center, its legs are all around.
Yeah. Yeah.
As well as, yeah, being this like sacred weaver of your reality, going and gathering from these different parts. And
Mm-hmm.
uh yeah, I've really seen some of those qualities within myself to go into the like phoenix rising from the ashes as well. It's like when I feel the quality of the ashes, like they feel light and fluffy, and like, it's been long enough,
Mm-hmm.
they're ready to be repurposed.
Yeah.
How that's showing up for me is, well, so my Chiron is in Scorpio. So I have been like
Yeah.
really kind of going through those depths. Like
Mm-hmm.
for like 6 weeks, I was really deep in those depths, like going into it. And now I feel just in this last week, uh really returned to my essence. And like we talked about
Yes.
those masks that were put on, it was like, wow, I didn't even realize. You mentioned, like we're kind of in these environments where we're not fully supported to be in our wholeness, so we start putting on these other things.
Mm-hmm.
There was like something that I remembered that just like fell away, that I was like, wow, I didn't even remember that was something that I started trying to do. And it was really just around this quality of feeling like I needed to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I need to become an adult. I need to become a woman. Like, how do I do it?
How do I just pick the door?
And it's like that, like, honey, we're humans.
Yeah.
Children are going to grow. That's a natural
Yeah.
process. And I think that there I probably was just feeling that pressure, whatever it was.
Yep.
We don't need to go all the way down into it right now. I've done a
Yeah.
lot of that for myself, but
Okay. Like we
to
can.
I'm happy to. I just want to keep the
No,
space for
okay.
other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what that's showing me is just this deep essence of myself that I've always been,
Yeah.
who yeah, really really deeply connected to myself in my child, in my power, as
Yes.
how I always was as a child before there were any parts of me that decided that I needed to be like anybody else. So that for
Hmm.
me is has been kind of where Scorpio moon has been going.
I love that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also all of
Mm.
your altars that you've created. I love how you speak about your collaging becoming into your altars, because yeah, just to tap into the quality of an altar. Like it
Yeah.
is it really just is a soul collage.
Yeah. It
It's
is.
it's you putting these qualities that remind you of different things within you, and to see them
Hmm.
and to be reminded of them. It doesn't have to be
Daily
this,
reminders.
yeah, this daily
Yeah.
reminder. So I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's honestly part of my motivation behind creating this podcast, is like, whether it doesn't matter if anybody ever even hears this. I want to create an audio scrapbook of my life and the people that I'm
Yes.
talking to and the things that are
Yes.
exciting at this time. Like,
Oh, I
why
love that.
not create
Why
around
not?
the things that you're excited about?
Yes. Yes. Because that's exactly it. And that's exactly what these collages have been. Just this past weekend, I went through all of my old notebooks and I saw all of my old collages. And it was such a amazing process to see where I was 2 3 years ago and what I was moving through and the things that I was very much working through, but then also seeing the wisdom that I had and the knowing that I had back then, even when I didn't know, it's like I knew. And it's just like this, that's a reminder of like all the different parts of you. So I love how you put that, because you're gonna have this forever to look back on and to memorialize this Skylar that exists now and how awesome she is.
Yes, yeah, and I have so much to teach myself in the future.
Yes, yes. I am learning so much from 3-year-old me in this process of like recording. I'm basically writing down all of my collages and yeah, to as I'm preparing for my program.
For your program.
Oh yeah, for the program of bringing this and doing this with other people. and it'll look a little bit
Yes.
different. Yeah, it'll look a little bit different. And I'm just kind of right now sorting through exactly how it's going to look and how are we going to explore these archetypes. I have all the ideas and the exercises. It's now a figuring out of like how will it actually come together in a seamless way on a month to month basis. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now with my journey.
Yeah, so that's your soul collaging.
Yeah, it's the soul collaging, and it's doing this within myself. So it's because there's the soul collaging aspect, and then there's the soul song aspect and the soul weaving aspect. And that's an excavation of your unique gifts and offerings. And so, for example, I'm looking at right now the way that I mother and the way that I enjoy being mothered because I have Jupiter in the fourth house, and it's one of my stronger placements. So when I'm thinking about how I want to be working with people within astrology, which is very much connected to my ancestry, I believe, and the more I've worked with my ancestors, I feel like the more astrology information and intel that I have, and I do feel like I'm building off of like a legacy that my ancestors were working with astrology before me. So I'm sorting through this fourth house essentially and this idea of Aquarius and kind of figuring out like the way in which I want to nurture and notice people and their journeys. And it's this process, and you've probably heard me say notice a million times in this podcast, and that's because it's like the number one thing for me in listening because of my eighth house placements. And yeah, I don't have to get into it all, but basically I'm looking at the different parts of my chart and kind of breaking them down to their archetypal essences so that I can create an offering for other people that is like fully representative of who I am, and also like what do I have to give, because I think that's also kind of the big idea of the birth chart. If we think about it just as like this personality thing, this is just like who I am, then that's kind of stagnant and I don't know, kind of boring. But if you think about it as this is like my soul's blueprint. This is like what my soul came down here on this earth to learn. It chose the exact minute, the exact moment it wanted to be birthed to work with the specific energies that were available in the sky at that moment in time for its evolution, and then also for creation, because souls want to create something in this lifetime. And in order to deal with the challenges of our time and to kind of enter in this new age of living with more liberation and of rewilding and of living in our essences, we need everybody to be fully in their power. We need everybody to be fully in their unique gifts and their unique offerings. And in order to do that, these unique gifts and offerings have to be noticed. They have to be nurtured. They have to be seen. And I feel like that those are my gifts, the ability to notice, see, and nurture other people's gifts. And that's what astrology is for me. It's a language to explore what are those gifts, what are those things, and how can I nurture them. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. But I'm just trying to map out the best way of going about that, you know. And I have my ideas, and it's just all kind of coming together. And I feel like it's like, you know, last night I went to an ecstatic dance last night. I pulled
Me
Cosmic Egg.
too.
Oh, you did? Fun.
Yeah. Sunday ecstatic dip
Sunday,
day.
Sunday, Sunday fun day. Yeah, but I pulled Cosmic Egg, and the message of it was like, don't rush. Like it's you have like the creation, but don't rush it. You know, it's gonna come at its own time. So it's just like this unfoldment that's happening. You know, even I feel like doing this podcast is unfolding it.
Mm.
So yeah, a lot of words again, but
Please share all of your words are such a gift.
thank you.
And yeah, your channel is so pure, and I actually really admire the way that words come through. They come through with a lot of clarity.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I love, I really do see that in you to notice, see, and nurture. I
Yeah.
definitely feel that in this conversation, and actually, like, I feel super held by you.
Oh,
Um,
me
and
too. To you,
oh, thank you.
really.
Yeah, well, I think we reflect that in each other for sure. That's
Yeah.
to me that feels like something, yeah, it's something that we definitely both see within one another, and then it naturally amplifies, which is really beautiful. It's really, really
Mm-hmm.
like sacred quality to be able to hold one another while feeling held.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Well, yeah, I can see. like that your soul collaging is going to be really amazing. How you bring that into do the soul weaving with people.
Yeah.
And yeah, anyone who works with you is going to be so lucky. I know that you're already just by speaking and giving an astrology reading to somebody, you're already doing so much too. So to bring that creativity and that embodiment into it is, yeah, I can see how you are, how that gives you more of the space to notice, see, and nurture the people that you're guiding, and not just to be the channel and to spit everything out at somebody,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
even though we're in this Aquarian energy, like you said, where we're able to, we're the cosmic water bearer. We take the information and we translate it. That doesn't mean that we need to get up on our soapbox
Yep.
and tell somebody how to do something. Like, just
Yep.
because we know, quote unquote, no, there's no like
No.
knowing,
Right.
but
Right.
yeah, like, it's how much more fun is it to nurture
Yeah.
somebody's inner artist and see them just
Yes.
blossom as who they truly are.
Exactly. Exactly. It is about the joy and the fun. That is like the point in a way. It's bringing that eternal child to it. That's just like, hey, like look over here. Hey, let's do this activity and bring this out. Like, come on. Like, what else do you have in there? It's fun. It's playful. And then I feel like that creates the more sustainable relationship with astrology,
Mm.
because I feel like so often people get readings, they, look into their chart, and then it kind of just falls away. It doesn't stick unless they're really into astrology like me and you and like people that are really into it. Most people, like, it doesn't really stick. But I feel like to get it to stick, it might not even be about like, oh, like knowing what Cancer is and like what Cancer means. It might be about like, what does the relationship of the crab look like? Like, how am I staying in my shell? Like, what does the shell mean to me? Like, it could be
Mhm.
this whole creative unfoldment that really has nothing to do with like Cancer or Virgo or whatever, but it does to us, and it will to me as I'm guiding it. But to the person receiving, it may or may not actually go that deep into astrology itself. It's just like it's the backbone for play and for language and for exploration of these topics.
Mm. As you were just speaking that, it's 11:11 here. Just so you know, we manifesting over here.
Yes.
Yeah, that's super true. And what you were speaking about earlier also got me interested in what we talked about before, of with the soul weaving and the soul collaging of, like, this unique kind of
Oh
musical
yeah.
tone and like frequency that happens, that is present with you when you're born. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll give a little background on astrology for a second. So if you think about your chart, it is essentially just a screenshot of the sky at the moment that you were born.
Hmm.
And it's showing where all the planets were located in the sky, what constellation they were through, and then also where the planets were in relation to each other. So we know, and actually science now knows, that each planet vibrates at a specific frequency. So let's say you have Jupiter vibrating at a frequency in one part of the sky and it's passing through the part of the sky known as Sagittarius. Sagittarius also has a frequency. So the energy of Jupiter is being expressed through the energy of Sagittarius, which is nice because it is its home planet. And then opposite, you have, let's say, the moon, and the moon is in Gemini. So now the moon in Gemini and Jupiter and Sagittarius are both vibrating at their specific frequencies, and they're hitting each other exactly
Mm.
opposite. And then that hitting, that axis that makes between the chart, is like a channel. It's a musical channel. And then now these notes are merging. And like we said before about existing in the center, this is really where this comes in, because it's like your being, your essence is at the very center of all of this, at the center of all of these planets. And it's basically just, when you were born in this world, you were coming from the womb, you were coming from darkness, from quietness, from stillness. You
Mm.
enter into this world an empty vessel, and you just download the cosmic noise happening at that exact moment of your birth. And it becomes this note, but it's like a super complex, beautiful note, because it's the exact it's the exact expression of all of these different planets and all of their different signs and how they're all in relation. So you can see this is why we're all so individual, and people can have very similar charts but still express very differently, and this kind of gives some context to that. It's because the planets are never in the exact same position, never. Like, it's impossible for the planets to be in the exact same position in the sky at the moment. It's just, that's how we're also unique. But then the thing is that the planets continue to move. So you might have this Jupiter in Sagittarius, but as it continues to move, the song continues to change. So it's just like this eternal symphony that's playing out, and you have your specific note to play within this symphony, and your note is so needed and your note is so powerful. And once you learn how to hear your note, and once you learn how to notice your note, then you are able to dance with the cosmic energies that are always going to be unfolding in a way that is more fluid, that has less resistance, in a way that is more magnetic, in a way that is more authentically you, and more wild, more free, more all of these things. You're able to attune yourself. It's really about attunement. Once you attune to your unique essence, your unique song, you attune to the cosmos. And that might sound super like way out, and but it is, it's brought back down to earth. And the practice of creation and of channeling this energy into archetypes, into art, into music. I have playlists for every single sign, that are based off of my understanding and expression of those signs. I have activities that I do for each different sign. Once you it sounds very like theoretical, but you bring it back down, and that's how astrology helps. It helps you go cosmos, it helps you bring it back down to earth.
Wow. I For me, what you're saying is so exciting and so true to my being because I'm a sound healer
Right.
and yeah, and a singer, and
Yeah,
I
I really feel this for you. And Skylar, I feel like the moment that I really like saw and noticed you and your power was during that Aries new moon activation that you did. That was so incredible and powerful. I was in such a like blah mood, and I almost didn't want to go. And then I went, and I was like bouncing up and down. You held that space so powerfully. And yeah, I just felt called to kind of share that really fast, because I feel like you do have this like cosmic astrology connection, and then to bring that into music. But yeah, go on. I just got excited.
oh, thank you. I've actually completely forgot that you were there for that.
Yeah.
Uh, to give context, yeah, so a year ago when I met Sami, I was at a retreat at the farm that she was working at. And it was a retreat led by some of my really good friends. And I came there to participate, but also to teach a workshop. And I've been a sound healer since about 2020 and teaching yoga since 2018. But and a dancer my whole life, but I'd actually never taught a dance journey. And just before this, like right before I went to Guatemala, I was in Costa Rica for 3 weeks with a women's mystery school that I'm a part of, where a big part of what we do is embodiment dance journeys led by my mentor, Sophia Tom. And it kind of just all came together because I realized I didn't have all the sound healing tools that I would usually have. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do a dance journey into a sound healing based around the Aries full moon. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It was that experience for me was one of the most like absolutely soul igniting experiences. I was also facilitating it partially online with a full group of people in person. The Wi-Fi wasn't even for sure was going to work. I was like messing with the sound setup throughout the whole
Yeah.
experience. I wasn't even sure if I was going to have the right like things to say to guide people in the dance. And yeah, it completely shifted the energy of the day. We were all really sleepy, and the whole rest of the day, everybody was just like so
Wired.
fired up. It was so cool.
Totally, it was.
Yeah, so you're right. Like it's truth. Tapping into the cosmos through music is absolutely, I mean, that's what we do. Like we are all created by sound. Everything has a vibration.
Yeah.
So when you create these vibrations, you're tapping into what's available through all different parts of the universe. And what I've actually come into realizing, this is to go a little bit deeper into sound, and the quantum field, is that, so our neighbor is also an incredible, both of them are incredible sound alchemists, and they were creating some music the other day, and I can only describe what I was hearing as like, when I was listening to it, I was like, I feel like I've only heard this in like DMT spaces, when I've been in psychedelic spaces, and on these really deep journeys, like only hearing these kinds of sounds. And I was like, well, but now I'm hearing it. And then I kind of realized, I was like, oh, well, obviously in the quantum field, you can hear every single sound of creation in existence that has ever existed and ever will exist, because all of time exists all at once, so to be able to tap into that frequency of what your unique vibration was, of like, of Jupiter passing through Sagittarius, wherever it was that's in your chart, you are creating, you're time traveling in that moment with sound.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I
so you're
love
going
that.
back to the moment that you're born in that way, to reclaim those parts of yourself.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you need to enter the quantum, figure out the exact frequency of Jupiter and of Sagittarius, and then find some way to channel that, and then set up this like sound healing for somebody where each person, like sound healer, represents a different planet and with a different sign instrument, and then people can go back to their birth song. How cool
Okay,
would that be?
absolutely. Yeah, it's
This
happening. It's
is
already happening.
it's happening.
It
Okay.
exists now. Yeah, well, and like that's what toning is. When vocal toning, this is why vocal liberation is so important. This is why it's important to be connected to your own frequency. Uh,
Yeah.
and this is
So
what
that you
so
can
many.
be
What's up?
so that you can be yeah, you have to attune your instrument so that you can play on key with everybody else.
Yes. And, there's so many people who are doing this already. Like Dea Dova she creates these incredible soundscapes of like literally just placing her hand on a rock at a sacred site.
Wow.
And she transmits the frequency of that, because everything,
Yeah.
the
Everything's
chair that you're sitting on has a vibration. It has a song. There's people who like, they put those nodes on the plants and you can hear the song of the plants. So yes, I'm definitely going to do that. Like that's actually what you're tapping into, is kind of a vision of what I have seen for myself of creating sound healing albums is,
amazing.
you're creating the frequency of Jupiter, you're creating the frequency of
Yeah.
Venus and all this other stuff. So dude,
Yeah.
yeah, that's exciting.
Oh. Could bring family constellations to a whole new level.
Yes. Oh my
Planet
God.
like, yeah, wow, so amazing. And I can't wait to see how that album and all of your creations come to life. You are such a creative being and have, I feel like, just a lifetime ahead of you of doing really cool stuff.
As do you, sister. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for seeing that in me. And when I hear you speaking about what you're excited about, it makes me even more excited to be in that
Yeah,
creation. Like I get excited when I'm in, my pure creator mode and it's just for me, but I also get even more excited about when we're all doing it.
yes, when everybody's active, and that is that Aquarius energy. So many people think that Aquarius, to go back to Aquarius, so many people think that Aquarius is just like kind of aloof and like only into their own creativity. And no, Aquarius is the representation of Aquarius is the light within me sees and honors the light within each and every one of you. And it's only when Aquarius falls into the shadow that becomes untrue. But a true Aquarius in their true power wants to shine a light and use that Leo energy, their opposite sign, to lift everybody up, and everybody's in their own authentic expressions. And that's when we all start to dance. And that's what really excites me about this work is, yes, the individual, but then once we're all in our own individual essence, we become this like unstoppable collective of people, of everything, of just changing, yeah. Goes on to, that's like the foundation of the revolution.
Dude, yeah, well, and what I hear from that, this is a really beautiful way to like to bring it all to a close, actually, into a loop,
Yeah.
is that when you are in the center point of your magnetism, of your creation, of creating and being exactly who you're meant to be, excited by the things that you're excited by, and loving in all the parts of your chart, not feeling like it's a burden, but rather it's a blessing,
Mm-hmm.
that yeah, you fully come online, you become fully activated, and in that way then you're able to step into the collective, and then you're
Yeah.
able to make an impact, and then we all become this whole. So
Yeah.
that is another piece
Exactly.
of the Aquarius, is that your uniqueness is what makes you whole.
Yes.
So it's
Exactly.
coming into the uniqueness of each and every individual cell that makes the planet whole, which is you, which is everybody. And yeah, I think that for
Yes.
me, that really anchors in like why astrology is this superpowered spaceship for you, that is a direct plug-in into how you can yeah, rise into the most beautiful parts of yourself, uh, and to stop fighting the natural unfolding of your DNA.
Yes. Yes, you get it. Definitely.
Hmm.
Mm.
Any last downloads? Any last things that you want to share before we close?
Just thank you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for giving me the space for your beautiful reflections. And thank you to all the people that are here and listening. And yeah, I wish you the best on your journeys of remembering, and of remembering your wholeness that
Mm.
already exists. It's right there.
Aho.
Aho.
And Sami, where can people find you?
Um, so I will have a website here shortly, and
Yay.
we can put a link to that in the bio. I'm also considering creating a second Instagram account that I already have, but it's private and has 0 followers. um, I'm considering making that public because I do post quite a bit about astrology and just what's been new, and my noticings and my poetry and my exploration. So I think I'll be making that public here soon. So you can find me there as well. And yeah, if you want to work together, if what I was saying resonates with you and you feel like there is something within you that you are wanting to express and create together, then I would love to hear from you. You can find my email or contact form in the website.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think I can feel so many beings who have already been and are going to be so impacted by you. So thank you.
Mm.
Truly, thank you for what you do. Thank you for the courage to take the leap from a job that wasn't resonant, into really questioning those parts of yourself, noticing where you're overanalyzing, to learn more about who you are, how you want to be.
Yeah.
Thank you for being in tune with the symphony of your unique blueprint that you came here to embody. And I see you and I honor you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for this episode today. We will see you on the next one. So, if you like the show, be sure to follow this page and give the show a 5-star rating, or whatever kind of rating you like, to show some support. Share about it on your socials. Spread the word so that we can continue to share this message with love. Blessings.